Thank you for being here tonight. We have as a guest tonight Christian Hanna Horror, who has a horror-related YouTube channel, an amazing collection in his room. Does great horror movie reviews and retrospectives. Has all kind of insane collectibles. Everything you could hope for to see, almost like in a museum, but it's in his room. Christian, how long you been collecting?
Ooh, um, I think I started in 2009 or 10. We could say 2010 to be sure, but probably late 2009.
Excellent. And I got to say, first thing that I noticed. I mean, everything's on point on your channel. You got great thumbnail art. The pictures are great on your Instagram of your whole collection. Everything is very professional from like a marketing standpoint. How you present everything on your channel, and how you curated this game room and I know one of your videos was actually you going into detail about how to organize and present a horror related room, or that would work for any kind of collectible room.
Right.
uh, but where does this, I'm curious if you have any do you have any history in like photography, or any history and just how the way you present your channel very professionally?
But first of all, that's the first time anybody's ever given me that kind of compliment, so I really do appreciate that. Dude, trial and error. I just have been on YouTube since 2012, and I would just, of course, just like a lot of people, you start out doing it pretty guerrilla, so you just kind of throw stuff on there, and then you adapt and change and try new things. And I like color. My favorite color is purple, so color, I love my thumbnails to be colorful and eye-catching, so I do this thing with like these weird synth wave neon backgrounds, and that just kind of stuck. And it was appealing for myself because I like to entertain myself more than anybody. So the whole thing about the thumbnails was simply that. And when I started doing those, I dug them, so I kept doing it, and I did think that they had a good look to them, right? So I kept with that. And as far as any kind of history with photography, none in the slightest. I guess you could just say doing YouTube, I learned, you know, how to focus cameras, and I learned depth perception and things like that, and just very minimal trial and error type stuff that I was able to learn how to do just through YouTube, really, just the trial and error of making videos. And as far as Instagram, I've just learned that, light, 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 light. Have as much light as possible every time you take a pic, because you can take light out of a picture very easily. But if you take a bad picture with no lighting, it's impossible to add light to a photo without making it look like an image from an Atari 2600 game. So that's basically how I've adapted and how I do things now, but it certainly didn't start like that by any stretch.
So if your favorite color is purple, you don't mind the purple Jason from the NES game then?
Oh, I love the purple Jason from the NES game.
Nice. Yeah. And the collectibles you have here, it's like you have a little bit of everything. I love the diversity amongst this, because we're looking at, like, right now, the Puppet Master figures, and I would think that those are kind of harder to come by. Like, for those, like, were those like a limited production of those? Because I know NECA, that's big runs they do of these, all the NECA figures, obviously. But talk about those Puppet Master figures. Were those more of a limited run?
Yeah, so it's funny because the horror room has changed even more since this video, but those Puppet Masters, my wife's actually right next to me. Sydney probably remembers just as well as I do. Sydney, those were from FullMoonDirect.com, right? Charles Band's actual, like, I think Charles Band has a website for his actual production company, Full Moon, and he sells stuff himself. And those were either bought from FullMoonDirect.com, which is Charles Band's company, or I just got one off eBay. But they are very limited, probably a few thousand each. No, he will do more than one run of them, but they're not. It's far from being mass produced stuff. Those Puppet Master replicas are all, custom, limited run, hand done puppets. I love those Puppet Master replicas. Still some of my favorite pieces in my collection.
They look great. Are those the Trick or Treat 3 Halloween masks they put out, or are those different?
No, the pumpkin is the Trick or Treat Studios. Now, there's a guy named Sean Clark, which I'm sure most people kind of know who that is. He's the Horror Hallowed Grounds guy. Does all the he's on the special features of a lot of Scream Factory Blu-rays, and he does the what do you call them? The locations where he goes to the different locations for movies. Well, he had a production company called Silver Champagne Novelties that disappeared around 2012, and those are done from his company, and they're actually approved by Tommy Lee Wallace. Like he's close friends with Sean Clark, and Tommy Lee Wallace's signatures are on those. Those are a little bit more expensive, but those were gotten those before that website shut down. The Witch that you saw was the very last one he made before he closed up shop because he just got too busy with other projects and he couldn't keep up with it. But that
Right.
Witch is the very last one from Silver Champagne Novelties.
And it seems like your focus, at least from what I see under your TV center there, was the Blu-ray. So the Blu-ray is your preferred method to watch all the horror movies, right? Because you have a little bit of VHS, a little bit of DVD, but then the bulk. Would you say the bulk is Blu-ray of your collection?
Yeah, especially by this point. I bought right now because I got the video playing on my TV while I'm watching this. Right now,
Right.
those DVDs are from the past 10 years of just buying movies, and then Blu-ray is my love. Like it's probably my favorite format. I've got a 4K player. I'll get some 4K movies, but I just think I love Blu-ray, and I've invested a lot of time and money into that at this point, and I'm fine with basically sticking with that format as the one I will, and continue to purchase the most of. But the irony is, one of my greatest collections is not even in this room right now. It's in my living room. I'm looking at it. It's my Laserdisc collection because I've got all the Friday the 13th, all the Nightmares, all the Halloweens, Puppet Masters. My Laserdisc collection is one of my most prized collections I have because I got them before they started becoming real expensive a few years ago.
Well, I'm glad I put that in the playlist then. I'm not sure at what point we'll get to that. Hopefully we'll get to that.
Okay.
I think it was just volume 1, the video that I put in there, volume 1 of the Laserdiscs.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you have even more of those that you've done. Um,
I couldn't
but yeah,
remember. I may or may not have.
right. That'll be good. That'll be good
Yeah.
to see those. You have a working Laserdisc player and everything, huh?
Yes, I've got a 1993 Pioneer player. Works like a charm.
Wow, nice. These Scream Factory releases of these Blu-rays, do they? I don't know if we can geek out at all about how they do those. Do they do a lot of restoration to
Yes.
get the cleaning up to get the best resolution out of those? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I would say 8 out of 10 times. That's what Scream Factory pretty much does. They try to get the most original print of the movie, whether it be the camera negative or an inner positive of the film, and typically try to restore it. Like right now, the big thing is the Friday the 13th box set that's coming out, and for the first time ever, as far as my knowledge goes, I know there's a German company making media books, but I don't know about their scans, so I could be wrong. But Scream Factory may be for the very first time doing actual 4K scans of the original camera negatives of the first 4 specifically. So up to the final chapter, they're doing 4K scans. So the movies are going to look probably as good as they possibly can, unless they do a UHD 4K of it. But I mean, still, a 4K scan Blu-ray of the original camera negative, that's going to look pretty damn good. So, but that's what Scream Factory typically does. So a lot of 2K scans, you'll see that, or just full 1080p upgrades. They're pretty good about giving you very good transfers of movies.
I mean, for me, it's that age-long debate. Obviously, you'll know as a Friday fan. I mean, for me, it's 4 is my favorite. I know a lot of people say 6. There's something about 4 is like just a whole cohesive film that has that 80s feel. There's some like a warmth to it. I mean, you got Feldman in there. You got I always forget the guy's name from Back to the Future. Uh,
Crispin
Glover.
Glover, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Um, what's your go-to favorite, or do you even have one?
Yeah. So this is my opinion. I'm not. I'm a YouTuber, but I'll never talk like I know what I'm talking about. This is strictly my opinion. I think the final chapter is the greatest slasher movie ever made.
Right. Okay. Cool. So you're with me on that then.
I love Part 6 because I'm a huge Alice Cooper fan, though. Um, I love all the Friday the 13th. I really do. The good, the bad, and the quote unquote ugly, if you think there is any. I
Right.
can sit down and have a blast and watch Jason X. I can laugh my butt off watching Jason Goes to Hell. I try not to watch the final chapter very much because I want it to be a very special thing when I watch the
Right.
final chapter. You know,
Totally. And it's like you get these bits and pieces that you love from each movie, and you can't really. And that's why it's hard to say what's your favorite, because you're eliminating highlights if because you can pick and choose scenes from
right.
each movie that kind of give you, and when you combine them all together as one piece, it's like you get almost everything you would ask for in a franchise. And so it is hard to pick based on that because there's so many highlights.
Yeah, yeah.
How
I
about
couldn't agree more.
let's talk about Halloween though. Halloween is a franchise. I mean, how do you feel about some of your favorites in that, and maybe some of the movies that maybe kind of disappointed you in that franchise? I mean, or do you love them all? I mean, where do you stand on the Halloween franchise? One that gets a lot of some of the movies in that franchise seem to get a lot of
Hate.
criticism.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I'm assuming you guys. I mean, you got a playlist of my videos right here, so I'm assuming you guys have watched, some of my videos. I have a thing. I don't typically talk about movies I don't like on my channel, and it's not because I think there's anything wrong with that. Of course not. There are YouTubers that people wait to see what they think. They want to know, should I go see this? I trust this person. Let me see what they say. I never felt like I was one of those people, so I only talk about things I love because I love it when somebody comes up to me and says, "Dude, I saw that movie you talked about. That was awesome. Like right now, I'm looking at Ghoulies. Oh, dude, I loved Ghoulies. Thank you for telling me about that. That was great." So I typically only talk about movies I love. So if you look at my channel, you could see the Halloween movies I probably don't talk a whole lot about, which is probably Resurrection.
yeah,
It is what it is. Let's be honest. I mean, how high of a numbered sequel is that movie? It's like the eighth one they made. It's like how great could it really be, right? I'm
I
weird.
lose track. I lose track after Paul Rudd.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna
After
say
Paul Rudd.
I'm weird. I love Halloween 6, but I try not to be jaded. Here's the thing, okay? I can't sit here and tell you I legitimately think that is a very well made horror movie. But it's so entertaining to me. I love the mean dad, the John Strode. He's so mean. I love the tones of blue in that movie, and I love Brother Kane. So there's the peripheral things about the movie I enjoy so much, and it really feels like the season of Halloween. It brings me straight to like October. No matter what time of the year I watch Halloween 6, whenever I watch it, it feels like it's October 30th when I watch it. It's
Right.
great atmosphere. I'm a huge Halloween 3 guy. I've been a huge Halloween 3 fan for a long time, and now everybody loves Halloween 3, but I remember when I first started doing YouTube and I did a review for Halloween 3 back in 2012 or something, before the Scream Factories even came out for it. People were like, "Dude, that movie's terrible. Like, why did you waste your time doing a review of this movie?" I'm like, "Dude, I loved it. I'm a punk rocker. I love weird stuff. That movie is punk rock. It's so weird. I loved it. So Halloween 3, Mark, love that movie. I like H2O. It's funny. I'm not so big on the newest Halloweens anymore. They're fine. I guess I'm just ready for the next one to come out. I'm kind of over it a little bit. I had the honeymoon period. Was like, oh my god, this is great, and it's a good movie. I love the music. I like James Hugh Courtney. He was a sweetheart. Got to meet him. Um, Halloween's not really even my favorite horror franchise. I would. There are others, but if you want me to hold off, I will. But I'm fine with Halloween. I pretty much can enjoy all of them. Some more than others, though.
Right. And it's one of those things too when I don't know if it's like my grandpa moment of the young kids get off my lawn, but it just feels like when you look at 80s, 90s horror and you compare it to a lot of the stuff that comes out today, I mean, there's still good stuff being made today, but when you compare it, it's almost like even some of the stuff that they call bad from the 90s, it's still, it to me, it holds up better than most of the stuff they're making today, though.
I would
And,
agree.
and maybe that's what it is, too, that I'm not very critical of the Halloween franchise as a whole.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you. My thing is, I do think there's good stuff out being made today, but unfortunately, you have to really dig for it.
Right.
You're not going to get it from Paramount, so to speak. You're not going to get it from Warner Brothers, or you're going to have to look for it. And the independent scene, and you go on Shudder and just, take a risk. Oh, what is this? This came out in 2018, some Australian horror movie. Let me give this a shot. And sometimes you'll just be surprised. There's some good stuff out there, but you have to look for it. You're just not going to find it. You're not going to find it, at the theater. I mean, regardless of COVID or not, pretend it never happened. I think my comment would still stand. You're just not going to find it that often in the big theaters. You're going to have to look for it nowadays because everything's just remakes nowadays.
Yeah.
So,
and this video right now, I may be mistaken, but I think it's the one you talk about, like Ghoulies and Critters. And what is it about that kind of Gremlins era of the little monster? There's something about those, because I love, one of my favorite toys is Boglins. Are you familiar with those, the hand puppets?
yeah, I remember those.
I just I love those movies too. Ghoulies, Critters 1 and 2. There's something about those, the smaller side, because it's like they're cute, but they're not. They're extremely ugly. But there's something fascinating about that size of like a monster in a horror movie, as opposed to like a life size like slasher human element. Because I think it's like, I love those because they're campy, they're funny, they're silly, and they're kind of cute in an ugly way.
Right.
I don't know. There's something about those that are fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, I really couldn't put it any better. Like it's. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but like seeing this video right now, I want to put on Critters too. Like I love those movies so much. It's a dead art form, man. They don't do it anymore. And it was this beautiful work of art that these Chiodos brothers created. These amazing puppets, and they were real. They were real. Actual props in the movie, and you saw them being puppeteered, and they gave them life. And it was just it's real. It's obviously it's fake, but in a sense it's just so genuine and real, and it's a dead art form that I miss so much. So much. I love those movies.
Why, in your opinion, are we not seeing it these days? Do the corporate entities in Hollywood not have the balls to put creative people in these positions? Do they just want a quick cash in with the remakes? Because we know creative. I mean, there's creative people like you out there. There's creative people that are in horror movies out there, but are they not getting the chance they deserve? Is it corporate greed in Hollywood? I mean, what is it?
That's a great question. I mean, in terms specifically, like we were just talking about movies like Critters and stuff, and basically stuff that's all created in latex prosthetic and stuff. One of my favorite directors, Tom Holland, actually talked about this, and he said, prosthetic makeup and stuff, it'll always have a better look than CGI because it's real. It's legitimately in camera. But it's very, very time consuming, and time is money on set. So I think that's probably why you see these movies that are just these green screened, run of the mill, just trash.
Right.
And that's but unfortunately, here's the problem, right? There's so many of us horror fans that are sick of this stuff, right? But guess what? These movies that we're sick of, that are run in the mill, that happen all the time, guess what? People still go see them. And these companies, they don't care what the reviews. They could care less. It's all about money. It comes down to, and it's the same thing with bad horror movies that are riddled with just crappy CGI. And I have a philosophy. I'm sure I didn't invent this, but my philosophy is if I can tell it's CGI, it's bad CGI. That's just the way I think and the way, and I'm not budging on that, you know.
Right.
I'm not budging on that. But you know, as long as the stuff keeps making money in the cinema, they're going to keep doing it, and nothing's going to change unless the dollar changes. Bands got kicked off record labels when their records didn't sell. But so it's the same thing. I mean, one of my favorite bands, Blue Oyster Cult, they got kicked off of Columbia because they stopped selling records. I mean, I still love the music, but the people at the time didn't, so they stopped buying their records. So they got kicked off. But these movies, we don't like them, but guess what? I mean, they still make a crap ton of money. So they're just going to keep doing the same thing until the dollar changes. We can't expect anything. That's what I think it really boils down to.
And it's like, we both know, and everybody listening knows that they were making practical effects back then because they couldn't duplicate it on the computer. But the thing is, somebody decided that we can duplicate it, and maybe it's cheaper. But my thing is this. Here's what confuses me. CGI and all that stuff, they still cost tons and tons of money to do that, and it's not fooling anybody still. Even in 2020, like you said, you can still tell it's CGI. I mean, so it's almost like I'm wondering why not just use practical effects? But like you said, maybe not enough people care about that, and they just want to be, have their movie that's comparable to a McDonald's drive-through quality of a meal, and just watch it and go home. And there's kind of a brain dead aspect to me of some of these people seeing these blockbusters. It's like, demand more of your movie, demand practical effects, demand more of what you expect, and than just the CGI crap fest.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I don't have the answers, but because clearly, I couldn't say that CGI is cheap by any stretch. What was that movie that came out with Sandra Bullock and it was Sandra Bullock and the guy, the star from Ocean's 11, Clooney. They did an entire movie in space. I think it was called Gravity. I mean, how did they?
Yeah.
There's an art form in a certain sense for those actors to literally create their world, because they're on green wires in a green screen room. So it's like, God, how do you even act to that? I mean, they kind of did, but I mean, it's Gravity, so I'm not gonna say it's the greatest thing I've ever seen, but just that's the world we live in nowadays. Movies are done like that, where
Right.
You've got actors literally in a green building, and the entire environment is recreated in post. It's like that's our reality, and everything is just digitized and computerized now, including our monsters, including it's not even just horror. It just seems to be everything. There's going to be no need for stuntmen in probably 20 years, because instead of okay, you watch a movie like Cobra, and they have to crash that car, and that car flips in in the middle of the movie, boom, and it's real, right? Well, in 20 years, watch, the technology will be there where they'll never have, they don't have to hurt anything. They won't have to clear the streets to do this. They'll just do it all in post, I guess. And I just think that's just the norm. It's going to be the norm, whether we like it or not. I would love it not to be that way. I'm not saying I just want to see cars explode in real life, but in terms of horror, it's like, come on, what's next? Are we going to have a CGI Freddy Krueger one day because they don't want to have to put the makeup on somebody? It's just madness.
And thank God the technology wasn't there in the 80s, and thank God they did have to use practical effects and get so creative and really live in the moment while they made those films. And so many more makeup guys in the industry than me that did who's the guy that did the Thriller video, the makeup, the famous makeup design guy in that movie? Do you know the name?
His name slips me, but I'm looking at his face. I believe he actually worked on the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
Rick Baker, right? Rick Baker?
No, you're right. It is Baker. I think it is Baker.
Why are they not using guys like him anymore in Hollywood? I wonder stuff like that. Are they not?
Baker himself, it's funny. He was on Joe Rogan not long ago, the Joe Rogan podcast. Baker is retired from the industry, but he still creates, and he still does some stuff for friends and things like that. And he's probably one of the greatest ever. I mean, he's certainly the greatest werewolf designer in the world, you know.
Right. And you look at like the detail on this bust right here, Freddy, right?
Right.
It, even down to the sweater and the holes in it, all that detail. That's what makes this stuff amazing. It's not, when when everything's CGI and you kind of lose all those little details, right? And you kind of lose what makes it look real. And you look at the skin on his head and just everything about it. You're in the movie because you believe it's real. What you're seeing looks real. It looks like skin. It looks like it's, all the holes in it. That there's so much money in the details and the quality to me
Yeah.
about this movie.
Yeah, and the argument is, oh, if people think that this art of filmmaking is dead, well, why won't the '80s die? How come everything is '80s now? Not even just horror,
Right.
everything is '80s. I mean, yeah, it's just a shame, man. I don't know. It's this weird paradox we live in, right? Because we're in this world of futuristic technologies and things changing, but I have a room in my house that is legitimately an homage to basically an entire decade.
Right. Because it was so brilliant. I mean, I'll even sit through a John Hughes comedy from the '80s, and you feel inspired when you're done. You don't
Amen.
feel like I'll sit through an Avengers movie, and maybe there was some good action in it, but I feel like hollow. I feel like I just watched a movie that's like I said, like getting fast food at McDonald's. It's not it's not something filling. It's not
Right.
like you walk away and you feel empty. Like your soul is not. You would feel like you'd watch these '80s comedies, or at least I do, and I walk away like even at like the Breakfast Club or something. You walk away like energized. You relate to the characters. There's a warmth to it. There's a message there, and there's something that I go back to those movies for, and I don't feel that way with movies today. To me, like, I think a lot of those John Hughes movies, it kind of turned into like this more. They tried to kind of just make them more vulgar, the teen movies, and kind of like more sex stuff in it all, which is okay. I mean, it led to like the American Pie movies and stuff, but then it got to like a certain point where it lost that relatability to me. Like it's just all like just sex and dick and fart jokes,
Right.
and it's almost kind of like horror did that too. And like now it feels like it's all like jump scares and cheap tricks and like just weird. It's hard to describe, but it's kind of like devolve instead of evolve.
Yeah. And yeah, 100%. And I think to comment back on what you said about, Breakfast Club and stuff like that, and how, first of all, it's like that style of movie making is just completely dead. I mean, how, how many movies are there nowadays where it's just a movie about straight characters and character development? You know what I mean? Because Breakfast
Yeah,
Club is truly this movie of you just learning who these people are and you fall in love with who they are. When's the last time you went to a movie where that's what it was about? That's dead. That's
right.
everything now, and I don't. This is just the way my brain is working. So I'm not trying to get off topic, but it's like you look at movies today, the attention span. And first of all, to comment back on what you said about the relatability, I think that it's hard for you to find any kind of movies that have that sort of relatability. Is because we've kind of lost ours as a society. Everything
Right.
is cell phones, social media, 10-second videos. 10-second videos, entertainment, 10-second videos. Americans are weird. We have a 10-second time frame or like a 3.5 hour time frame. If we go, a lot of people, they go on YouTube, they either want to watch something that's really quick or they want to watch something that's going to last all day, like a Joe Rogan episode or something. It's weird. We've got very strange attention spans, it seems like, and with movies, it's even weirder. There's people that love movies nowadays that are just, just what do you call it, Scorsese long, and they're into that. Or if a movie's an hour 45, oh, I'm out. That's too long. But the relatability is gone. I think there is no more. It's almost. I don't do the Avengers movies. I have nothing against them. God bless anybody who loves them. That
Yeah,
kind of stuff is just way too far removed from reality for me.
it is.
I'm more of the Lethal Weapon guy. Like I still watch that. Those are my action films. You know, um, I'm not into the superhero stuff. It just never was my thing. Nothing against it. God, like I said, God bless whoever's into it. That's awesome. I know it makes a lot of people happy every time those movies comes out. Same with Star Wars, great stuff. But I just like personalities. I like characters. Like I love watching movies like Lethal Weapon because not only is it an action movie that has great stuff in it, but man, you feel for Riggs when you see
Right.
he's lost his wife and he's wanting to kill himself, and it's like, no,
Living in
please.
a RV on the beach.
Yeah, I mean,
Dog.
dude, that stuff is like I guarantee you couldn't even make that movie today. Like you couldn't do it.
Drinking in the shower.
Yeah.
Putting the gun to his head.
Like that just wouldn't be acceptable. People would have a problem with that in movies today. But the point of a movie like that is to see how he overcame what he went through. There was light at the end of the tunnel. When he lost his wife, he gained this person who's going to become his best friend. But people aren't willing to take the ride with movies anymore and see. They just if they find out there's something that they don't like, it's like no, that's garbage. Where he goes, see what happens to him. It turns out good. That's what I'm talking about with attention spans and people just not giving. People don't give things chances anymore either. Social media, if something gets traction about don't watch this or don't do this, okay, I'm not going to do it. How about go see for yourself? Go check out that movie for yourself. Maybe you will like it. Maybe you will enjoy it.
I think my favorite's the second one with like the is it German or Russian guy with the big fish tank? He's kind of
I think they're South African.
yeah, something like that. But he's got all his thugs, and I love there's so much funny stuff in there, and Joe Pesci's so perfect as the annoying sidekick, and yeah, the first is total classic too, but something about the second one that just hits all. And then the bathroom scene when he's on the toilet with the explosion, Danny Glover.
Oh yeah.
Oh God, classic.
I would agree that the second one, my ranking, just to give it to you real quick, is 2, 1, 4, and 3. I love the second one. To me is the best one. I love Lethal Weapon 2.
Yeah, and it's like you can't. We're doing something wrong when we can't even get action movies like that anymore. I mean, come on. We can't even get action movies with a little comedy and heart in them. It's like,
yeah.
Really?
Well, who are our action stars today? I mean, I guess
right.
You could say The Rock.
Oh God.
Statham.
Right.
And martial arts films are dead. I'm a sucker for a good martial arts film. I love Bloodsport. I'm a Van Damme guy. I love Lionheart, Bloodsport. I love Showdown in Little Tokyo. That's dead. That art of filmmaking is gone in America. Why?
Yep.
Like, what happened?
Oh.
I just miss all that. It's just all these specific flavors of drink, and it's not for everybody. But it's like Lloyd Kaufman said on the '80s documentary, and it was the most truest thing I've ever heard with movies. Because he said nowadays movies made by these big production companies, it's baby food. They're trying to please everybody. But not, you can live off of baby food, but who wants to live in that kind of world and only eat baby food? Every now and again, you want a jalapeno pepper, and as he put it, trauma movies are a jalapeno pepper. And I love jalapeno peppers sometimes. I want these kinds of films, and they are out there. But like I said, you have to dig for it. I mean, you really have to dig and search different countries basically to find some of the films nowadays that you love that were still popular in the 80s and so on.
It's funny, because when you watch like an independent movie, there's so many production companies that had to fund it that like you'll start the movie and it's like 10 different studios because you can tell that these independent movies, whenever there's like a character based movie like we're talking about, something like The Breakfast Club, it's always like this low budget independent thing now that it's like you don't even know where you can see it in what theater, and when it comes out, when you can watch it, there's like 10 promo studios in the beginning that had to fund it. You could tell that just to get the money to make the thing, because Hollywood doesn't want to make those anymore And as a film guy, you know how much those character driven movies were being made in like the 70s. That was the whole art form then. Like A Taxi Driver was being made, like all the De Niro movies, the Dustin Hoffman movies then were all these character stories, like
Right.
these slice of life movies that were really about discovering who these characters are and who we are as a society, like you brought up too. And we're kind of detached from that now. And I love movies like that. You don't have to have a Hollywood ending all the time. You can just give somebody 2 hours of showing what a person's life is like, and being in their shoes. Sometimes that's enough. And it's like we've forgotten that. That's enough in a movie to do that if you do it well.
Absolutely. I just couldn't agree more. And I still think that it could work in today's world. I mean, I don't want whoever owns Breakfast Club to remake it. But Jesus, man, there are so many talented writers out there. Just one studio. Don't. It's like, come on, guys. Just you don't need to spend a fortune. But good God, put seven or 15 grand or 15 million in just a good script. Put 15 million in a good script. Doesn't need to be this action craze stuff. Doesn't need to be sex romp. Just tell us a story. You'd be surprised. But the studios, like we talked about, everything has to be surefire. Everything has to be. Our study groups show that blah blah blah. Okay, so these are projections for the last 5 movies that were like in this. Everything is based on numbers and the history of sales and blah 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 blah. It's like when Rings came out a few years ago. You remember it tanked. That movie didn't make
Yeah.
any money. Well, Paramount was like, okay, because they were the big rumor mill was around that time. There was interest in bringing back the Friday the 13th franchise and making another installment, whether it was going to be another remake, a reboot, what have you. They never got very, very far. But, the word got out. The big wig sat around a desk and said, we're going to axe Friday the 13th. People don't want horror movies right now because nobody
Yeah.
went and saw Rings. No, nobody went and saw Rings because they didn't care. They didn't want a sequel to it. Maybe it'll end up like Critters 2 in 30 years, and people now love it, even though nobody saw Critters 2 in theaters. But I dare say that's not going to be the case with Rings. So just ignorant stuff like that. No, nobody wanted to see the Rings. Nobody cared about that. You think
And
people don't care about Friday the 13th? It's like, come on, guys. Figure
isn't
this
it
out.
amazing too? Isn't it amazing too the merchandising right now? How like the fact that you can get a mask from any movie from like the classic 80s 90s. Isn't it amazing you can get like so many companies making shirts now? Like, I mean, I don't think there was stuff like that when these movies were coming out and they were hot, was there? Like, you couldn't get like you know what I mean? You couldn't get Texas Chainsaw Massacre shirt or something, right? Am I wrong? Like everything, the merchandising cornucopia is like exploding right now with this stuff.
It's so funny you bring that up because I was actually going to do a video discussing that. I was going to do a video, and I'm still going to do it. You actually reminded me to do it. I was going to do a video basically talking about the difference from my horror collecting when I first started in 2009 till now, and how back just 11 short years ago, getting like if I said, oh, I want to go grab a Michael Myers shirt, I'm gonna have to go to a boutique website online,
Right.
or catch a Spencer's, or catch a what have you website, what have you novelty store in the middle of October to get it, because it was just you had to get lucky and find the stuff because it was more niche. But nowadays, like you just said, I can literally go to Spirit Halloween and pay $60 and get a full over the head Freddy Krueger mask. Specifically, this is the kicker. Really think about this. I can get a Freddy Krueger mask specifically detailed to an entry in a franchise, the Dream
Right.
Master. Not only get just a Freddy mask that was made by rubies, that was and just kind of looks somewhat like Freddy with pepperoni spots and no. I can get one that looks just like the Dream Master, for God's sakes. What does that say about our world now and this era of movies? It won't die, and if
Right.
anything, it just keeps growing. you think about this. We're living in a world where physical media is by the large scale numbers and by the general world, it's dying. Okay, I mean, look, streaming has taken over for convenience. But how is it that a company like Scream Factory is able to survive in a world of dying physical media? It's because horror hounds can't get enough of this stuff, and they put these movies out. If it's got new special features, it don't even matter if it was a movie that was great or not. People love this stuff. They want to see what the making of was like. They want to see what the actors think about these movies. They want to learn something new about it. And like just the fact that Scream Factory is okay and doing well, and they're surviving in a climate of dying physical media. What does that say about this era of horror movies? It's amazing.
And you know what I'm thinking too? I'm thinking that like the kids that are growing up now, I have a hard time thinking when they're in their 30s, they're gonna want like a Kylo Ren helmet. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, because they're not gonna be able to have those experiences with the way they even saw the movies. I feel like I'm lucky, right? I feel like I'm the last generation that really grew up before technology.
yeah,
My senior year of high school is really when iPhones, like they had an iPhone, but it wasn't the touch screen yet. Like right when we graduated high school is basically when I saw the iPhone 2 or whatever, where it basically is the same model and build like we have today, where it's touchscreen and stuff. So I feel like I was one of the last generations to really grow up without technology. And, the way I watched movies was so intuitive. You couldn't. I'll tell you this quick little story. When I first started getting into horror, I remember I got the bug, and I just wanted to start watching all these movies. I asked my Mom, can you stop by Blockbuster? Because she worked close to a Blockbuster in our town. I said, can you stop by a Blockbuster and grab Nightmare on Elm Street? I really want to see this movie. Because I probably had seen them as a kid, but, nothing that I really remembered. And she goes, yeah, sure, let me go grab it. She comes home, and she says, I'm sorry, Christian, somebody was renting that one, but I got you part 2. Is that fine? And I was like, screw it, that's fine. Let me just watch part 2. And I watched part 2, and I didn't have an iPhone to tweet out, okay, guys, about to watch part 2 real quick, and then post it, start the movie, and check in 5 minutes. Okay, let me see who's like that. Let me see
right.
if any people. No. I put that DVD into that TV player, shut the lights out, and I watched Freddy's Revenge. And it scared the crap out of me. I'll never forget watching Freddy burst out of Jesse. That memory is so ingrained in my mind because of how deep into that movie I was without technology in my way, without a smartphone in my hand. I had a Razor flip phone. What the hell am I going to do with a Razor flip
Right.
phone, So just the way we enjoy movies now. Like, what is a kid? Oh, I can't, and God bless kids that love Star Wars nowadays, but it's like, oh, man. Oh, yeah, I remember when I was watching Star Wars on my iPad for the first time when I was, driving in the car. Come on, like that's not the way you should experience movies. It's got to be a deep, intuitive thing, I think, and
Right.
the connective tissue with that is so strong that the memories are very strong, and it's such a disconnect now. You know what I mean? It's just I feel for some of these people that are never going to be able to enjoy a movie the way I think you really should be able to, which is in a dark room with something to drink, a blanket over you, just being absorbed into this world that this movie is. We're losing that. We're losing it big time.
We are, and there's not these movies that feel groundbreaking anymore. Nothing feels like it doesn't feel like we're breaking any new ground. And when all these massive movies were coming out, like the Spielberg era, right? It all felt like new ground was being broken with E.T. It felt like new ground was being broken when Jurassic Park came out. It felt like it felt like just creativity was peaking and people were being blown away. They were being immersed in something, and I feel like I'm keep hitting the same record what we're talking about here, but what's it? I don't know what it's gonna take till we're breaking new ground again and we're exciting people with the movies because history keeps repeating we just keep repeating ourselves.
Right.
Trying to run the blockbuster movie, the big budget action blockbuster movies into the ground. We run the superhero movies definitely fucking into the ground. Enough already with those. I mean, It's like how many more times, Batman's gonna keep making money. Obviously, I love Batman too, but I mean, how many times are we gonna fucking do it again? How many times are we gonna and not really bring a lot of stuff new to it? I still like the first two Burton movie Batman's better than the rest, and those were the first two.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as far as that genre, the superhero and stuff, like I genuinely couldn't even begin to even guess what could or should be done. I just go back to the box office, man. If those movies keep smashing in the box office, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
how paper thin the soul of the movies are, And I can't comment on them because I haven't seen them. I'm a Michael Keaton Batman guy. Besides that, I haven't watched a whole lot of superhero stuff, but I love the Michael Keaton Batman. I mean, I'm a Prince fan too, so I love the soundtrack, and I love Nicholson, but with that genre, I really couldn't even begin to tell you what to do. But in terms of horror, the only one positive thing I can say, because I do think there are some good things, technology-wise, I don't know how to push the boundaries. There may not be any way for a solid number of years in terms of technology. But I think the real way to scare people nowadays is through the mind, not so much through blood and guts. I think we've kind of run that course fairly
Right.
well. But I think movies that are coming out through the A24 people are challenging. They're
Like,
smart movies. They're not.
what
They're not
about like
treating.
Sorry to cut you off. What about like Get Out? Just I'm thinking of like a recent one. How'd you feel about Get Out with like the more mind shit?
Get Out was fine. I have so much love and respect for Jordan Peele now because I remember I watched him on a documentary and I was like, God, this guy's a real horror fan. So much knowledge, and I mean, I thought he was funny on Key and Peele too. Get Out was fine, but I enjoyed them. I enjoyed his second one a little bit more. I think it was Us. I thought it was more entertaining. Because I liked the comedy, which I found some really funny scenes in that movie when the when the NWA song kicked on in the house, and it was so jarring because here's this tense scene where they're running, and then F the Police is playing. Like
Right.
I loved his sense of humor in that movie, which I'm assuming that's what he was going for. I'm sure he was amusing himself. But I think Jordan Peele's fine. I think he's making his movies that he wants to make, and God bless him for that. Keep doing that. I think he can be a great voice in horror, and he's different. He's making horror movies that reflect his society and his life. So I think that's great. Whether I love them or not, I can only comment on when I see them. But I don't think he's done anything, quote unquote bad. Get Out's perfectly fine. A lot of people dig it, and I that's awesome. I thought Us was more my type of his movies that he's made that I enjoyed. Again, it seems like a lot of people dug that movie. Awesome. So I have no issues with Jordan Peele. I think he's great. I can't wait to see what he's doing next. I know he's producing Candyman, for God's sakes. Which, come on, man, Candyman. Come on, Tony Todd is Candyman. Tony Todd is to Candyman as to what Freddy is to Robert is to Freddy, in my opinion. So I mean, it's like, good Lord, good luck. I'll see Candyman when it comes out. I'm not going to watch the film with my back against the wall, open mind, but it's just like, why is horror so expendable with its remakes? You don't see
Right.
Caddyshack. You don't see Caddyshack getting remade. You don't see
Right.
Breakfast Club getting remade. You don't see, Cheers getting rebooted. Why is horror the expendable genre with remakes? It's like everything is getting remade now, and everything. And you look back at the 2000s. Weird movies, like niche movies, were getting remade, like Mirrors, for God's sakes, which was like a foreign film, like wasn't even an American film that they remade it into. It's like, what's going on? Why is horror the expendable genre? I'll never understand that.
You know what I was thinking about too, from a writer standpoint, from authors. Think of how many movies Stephen King is responsible for that got made, and a lot of them didn't live up to the books, but a lot of them did. Carrie, The Shining. I mean, and you think about it, but are there authors like him at that level anymore for horror around still?
It's hard to say. I would say there are certainly probably, because I'm not a big reader. I'm an audio book guy. I know,
Right.
sue me, but I'm an audio book guy. I'm always on the go, so I jog and I'll listen to Sammy Hagar's audio book while I'm jogging and stuff. I do that. Um, I think there are probably some seriously talented people, but is print media like books, is that dying too? How many people are still reading nowadays? I would assume millions. I mean, surely, but can anybody gain traction like he did anymore in this world? Maybe not. And I would assume the longer we go without there being the next quote unquote Stephen King, the harder it will be for anybody to gain the traction that he had. I'm sure there are people out there telling amazing stories and novellas, but if they can't get the traction like he did, and the push from the publishing companies, I don't know.
Right. And I guess my point is like, kind of like for what Spielberg was for all those blockbusters in the 80s, was like kind of like what Stephen King was for kind of the horror movie genre in the 80s and 90s, just pushing so many different storylines along, or just, it was just such a force behind a lot of the horror movies being made, and the kind of snowball effect that led to, a lot of these Stephen King books that ended up into movies inspired other things, and then other things jumped off that.
Right.
And it's like, where you had Spielberg, he had something to do with producing, I think, Gremlins, and then Gremlins maybe spawned into Critters, and then, Ghoulies and all this stuff. So, like, it's almost like I wonder if that there's not enough of a driving force behind a lot of things anymore.
I would agree. I think not. Spielberg was so powerful. I guarantee you, Universal's like, okay, Steven, what do we do next? What
Right.
do you have? Of course, it's not like that anymore, I'm sure. It's just, these guys, it's like once they earn trust, it's like they could do what they wanted to do. Steven I think Steven was starting his own production companies, and, he wanted to use Gremlins to get that one off the ground. And then, instead of that production company getting Gremlins, they got so much interest from the script because it was so good of a script that, like, no, we got to put money into this. We want this to be a big thing for Warner Brothers, so that all changed. And God, it's just such a different business now. It's not even funny,
And on a positive note, I mean, maybe Hollywood's out of touch right now, but the like we said, the attention to detail in the toys and the collectibles from like NECA is really on point. Like you said, you can get a mask now made from companies that matches each individual movie in a franchise. You can get it's even like, people compare, Funko Pops to Beanie Babies, but it's like horror has even reached that niche. So like, if Beanie Babies were the thing back then, you can even see the horror influence even in a Funko Pop, when that's something that's universally bought by everybody from like 50 down to 8 years old.
Yeah.
So it's like you even see that horror, which is kind of funny, isn't it? That you see Jason in a Funko Pop, and you see I mean, it was bound to happen. It's just kind of funny that there's probably like an 8-year-old with a Jason Funko Pop, and they don't even understand the relevance of any of that.
Yeah. Dude, it's huge. Like it's like horror is a brand now. I always tell my wife this. She's a big Beatles fan. I was like, I'll ask her and I'll ask other people. Beatles is a brand. Is it annoying when you see somebody wear a Beatles shirt, but they probably can't name 5 songs? And
Right.
It's the same. It's the same with horror now. You go to Hot Topic, you can go to Hot Topic and get a VHS cover Halloween 2 shirt, and you may see somebody wear it like, oh man, I love Halloween 2. You like that? Oh, I just got the shirt, man. Like, let it look cool. Like, horror is a brand now. And
Right.
It's huge. Like, you can go to Walmart, for God's sakes, right now. In most Walmarts, I live in a small town, so they didn't have it, but you go to Walmart and get the poster of the first Halloween on a T-shirt, where it actually has like all the credits at the bottom. Production company, blah blah blah, AFCO, produced by such and such. Like, they have all that stuff on the shirt now. Like if I would have looked, if I would have like, if I can go back in time and tell myself this 10 years ago, I would be like, no, dude, it's probably just gonna get even more niche. But no, it's huge. It's
right?
huge. It's a brand. You know?
It really is. And it's like somebody, it's like they decided, like the powers that be decided, this is hot right now. It's hot right now. Cash in, cash in. Come on. And like,
Yeah.
you see the shirts in Target, like you said. You see the shirts in Walmart. Everybody wants a piece of it. You go to like fucking World Star Hip Hop. Some rappers got the horror shirt on. You know,
Yeah. It's just
smoking weed. Now it's like it's everywhere. And he doesn't get the relevance of it or what even the movie is. He's just like, oh, it looks badass, bro, or something. You know.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
yeah. So it becomes part of the culture. Um,
Which doesn't bother me. I don't get upset about that. I'm not upset about it. If anything, it just benefits me as a collector and a horror fan.
right.
You know.
Because there's more merchandise available too.
Exactly. So, I don't care if there's a bunch of, 19-year-old kids buying Halloween 4 shirts, even though they
Yeah.
haven't seen it, buy them. That way they'll make more and they'll make different ones,
I mean, it's better to me than when merchandising was going to like Backstreet Boys and Spice Girls in the
Yeah.
late '90s.
Yeah,
I mean,
I wasn't a big fan of that.
yeah, either was I. Trust me. Um, where's your head at right now? Like with what you're collecting? I mean, because you have so many franchises like Essential Pieces, the masks, the busts, the action figures. I mean, what are you looking for these days? What's on your list?
I find the best stuff when I'm not looking for it. I'm still watching the live video on my TV right now.
Yep.
Do you guys see that excuse me, the Freddy's Revenge video store standee behind me?
Yes.
Yeah.
With
See, I
block.
have a dear friend named Sean Beard, and he actually said, "Hey, man, I've got this guy whose family owned a video store, and I think his uncle actually worked for Media Home Entertainment, and he's got these just collections and boxes worth of video store standees." And
Wow.
the guy had watched my YouTube channel, and I don't like using the term fan; it makes me seem silly. But he liked my
Right.
videos. Okay, he liked my videos, and he hooked me up with a great price on that. He hooked me up with that Freddy's Revenge, and then so I mean, that's a dream come true because Freddy is my favorite, my all-time favorite character, horror villain, favorite horror franchise. Return of the Living Dead is my all-time favorite horror movie. Actually, my favorite movie, period. But my favorite horror franchise is Nightmare on Elm Street. So getting that and the Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 video store displays, it was a dream come true. It was just a blessing, and I love getting Freddy stuff. That Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5 poster back there, that is an actual original, because I love that poster more than the theatrical one. Because the theatrical
Right.
one's the one on my computer. You see, it's like space, and it's like the baby carriage in a bubble. That's the
Yeah.
theatrical poster. But the other one, where Freddy's making the face over the like the heavy metal looking baby carriage, that
Yep.
is the blockbuster. That is like the video store. That right there, that's a video store. Like available soon on VHS. Poster. And so I found that on eBay for like $20, and it's an original 27 by 40. And,
Wow.
because look, I'm not jaded. Look, I get it. Dream Child is not everybody's favorite nightmare movie. I love it. I love all the nightmares. I love Dream Child because of its, gothic look and its amazing soundtrack. Even though none of those songs are in the movie, Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter by Bruce Dickinson and all that. None of that's in the movie. But I love so many things about that movie. I love that movie, and I really wanted that poster, and I had to wait for months and months to finally find one pop up on eBay. So I waited and I got that, and
Because
go ahead.
for those that are watching right now, guys, the standee posters, life-size ones on eBay, go for unconscionable amounts of money for horror movies and stuff like that. I mean, like $1,000 for a standee a lot of times for a movie.
Yeah. And I won't give away the guy's name because just in case he's still selling them, I don't
Right.
want to divulge the price. I don't want to divulge the deal he gave me, so I won't say his name. But
Right.
I lucked out. I got the Freddy's Revenge and the Dream Master one for 200 each. So I mean, I got away with murder. You
Yeah,
know.
amazing deal. I mean, because let's face it, this is stuff that put yourself in the shoes of like a video store owner that's doing it for a living in the 80s and 90s when these things were in their store. A lot of these guys, I mean, let's be realistic, what they were doing, it was going right in the trash can when those movies were done. Am I wrong? The
Basically, yeah.
guys that weren't,
'Cause
horror fans, they were doing movie rental places for a living. They weren't saving this stuff, guys. It was going, not even in the recycle. It was going in the trash can, and they weren't saving it unless they happen to be a horror fan. So that stuff is not easy to come by. Those
no,
standees today.
very hard to come by. Yeah. And the beautiful thing is, my Nightmare 4 one, I was the very first person to assemble it. It had never been out of its box. It was brand new, isn't the word, but it had never been opened. So,
You know what I'm, thinking right now, Christian.
what's that?
I can't believe somebody hasn't jumped on this, making reproduction standees.
Well, it's funny you say that. Sydney, what's the name of that website that you showed me that makes mini standees? Do you remember? You don't. It's not a big deal. But my point is, there is a production company. This little company my wife showed me, and it's funny because I was like, "Ooh, I want that one. I want that one." It and they make little ones, tabletop
Okay.
ones that are about 12 inches tall,
Yeah.
and they're amazing. My God, they're amazing. Um, some of them are custom designed. I mean, there's some Return of the Living Dead ones I have to get. It's funny now that you're bringing this up to me. When I get off of this interview, I'm probably gonna have my wife order me one because
Right.
they were very affordable. They were very, very affordable, $20-$30 for them, and they made slightly bigger ones. But in terms of full life sizes like that, I don't think anybody does them like that. And to be honest with you, I couldn't bring myself to get Freddy ones like that because I just would rather. I'm not trying to sound like a jerk, but like having the pride of having those.
An original.
They're original. They're rich in history. People walked by them. I mean, they smell like cigarettes. They're amazing.
Right.
There's history to them, and I love that. And I totally get them for other movies, reproductions, but something about having those original Freddys,
Oh,
there's something just magical about them.
well, I still
And
I got the pull string one, the Freddy pull string doll, and yeah, you can't. There's there's something about that being vintage.
Yep, I got that too. And you pull the string on it, and the voice box it works, but it's all messed up. So
Yeah,
it's high.
it's all high pitched now.
Yeah.
No, I know what you mean, and there was that attention to detail when they promoted stuff too. That, like you said, they're not even gonna. So they're gonna give you. There's like the poster of the movie, like you said, but they're gonna give you a completely different thing for the standee because that's how much they gave a shit about making it cool. They give another shot of Freddy for that, and
Yeah.
and all that stuff envelops you more in the movie because they're taking the time to make all the promotional stuff, that extra attention to detail, making that something different, and I love that.
Yeah, it sucks you right in. I mean, how do you walk past that Freddy's Revenge? How do you go into a video store and see that Freddy standing on the bricks and that flames behind him and not be like, oh God, I got to see that?